Hey guys, tonight we take a slow walk through dust and time, to a place where deserts once bloomed, ziggurats loomed, and commerce quietly chiseled itself into human history. You're standing now in ancient Mesopotamia, somewhere between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates. The air smells like sun-baked clay, maybe a little goat, and something faintly metallic drifting from a blacksmith's stall 3 streets over. It's busy in that low-energy, sleepy sort of way. Markets murmuring, sandals scraping over stone, livestock braying half-heartedly in the heat. You push through the crowd in your wool tunic, trying not to trip over a basket of figs or a child running barefoot with a reed toy. All around you, Babylon is bustling, quietly. But we're not here for the drama. No epic floods or heroic kings tonight. No hanging gardens or thunder gods. No, we're here to follow something far more ordinary and somehow far more eternal. We're here to follow receipts. Yes, receipts. Those crumpled things at the bottom of your bag. That little proof you once bought 4 mangoes, or a decorative candle, or 7 boxes of tea during an emotional spiral. But back in Babylon, a receipt wasn't just a convenience. It was a revolution, etched not in ink but in clay. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still awake enough, let me know in the comments. Where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it there? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing ankle-deep in mud. Not just any mud. This is the sacred, civilization-starting, economy-boosting mud of southern Mesopotamia. It's sticky, a bit gritty, but pliable, perfect for building walls, or writing laws, or, in our case tonight, making receipts. The ground under your feet is the silt-rich deposit from thousands of years of seasonal river floods. And those rivers? They're why this place became the cradle of civilization. The Tigris and Euphrates, 2 watery giants whose erratic moods both fed and terrorized the land, created the fertile floodplain that birthed Uruk, Akkad, and Babylon. People started farming here about 10,000 years ago, give or take a drought. Then someone, probably sunburnt and mildly annoyed, realized they needed a way to track all those goats and grain and garlic bulbs. Because if you give someone 30 sacks of barley and no written proof, guess what? They'll swear it was 15. And they'll keep swearing for centuries. Cue the invention of proto-writing. At first, it was all about tokens, little clay bits shaped like animals or jars. You'd put them in clay envelopes and seal them up, like a prehistoric piggy bank. 1 sheep token? 1 sheep. 10 cone-shaped tokens? 10 loaves of bread. If you broke the seal and didn't find what was promised, well, that was ancient fraud. Probably resolved with a fine or a stern lecture from a man with a beard that reached his knees. Eventually, someone got clever and thought, why not just press the token shapes into the clay and skip the envelope? That's how we got to pictographs, those baby steps toward cuneiform. And that's how receipts, real, recordable, permanent, began to take shape. Imagine crouching in the dirt beside a reed mat, stylus in hand, tablet of wet clay in front of you. You press little wedge-shaped marks to say, received 5 measures of barley from Lugal for Temple Kitchen. You probably don't get paid much for this work, but you do get respected. You're literate, you're useful, and your work outlives you, literally. Some of these clay tablets, receipts, contracts, lists, have survived 4,000 years, buried beneath the dust of collapsing empires. Archaeologists find them stacked in broken jars, in burned-down libraries, even stuck under floorboards like ancient junk mail. Most of them are boring, thankfully. That's what makes them so useful. They're real, quiet, persistent. Historians still argue whether these earliest receipts were primarily economic or religious tools. After all, temples and trade were deeply entangled. Gods wanted offerings. Priests needed food. Kings needed taxes to fund new canal projects that everyone would then complain about. So the line between divine duty and inventory management got smeared. As you walk along the edge of a canal, sandals squishing in the muck, you see a boy delivering fresh reeds to a scribe school. You see boats unloading baskets of onions. You see a priest, draped in blue wool, eyes narrowed, carefully examining a tablet with a smudge on it. Did it say 5 goats? Or 50? Oops, someone's getting a strongly worded lecture. You pass by a brick wall with marks from long-vanished fingers pressed into its base. Everything here feels temporary, wood, fabric, even memory. But the clay holds on. Clay, it turns out, remembers everything. Section 2. You step inside a small, shaded chamber that smells like damp straw and burned oil. The door behind you is just a hanging mat. But this place is the heart of ancient Babylonian data processing. The scribe's office. In one corner, a boy is turning a pile of clay over in a shallow basin, making sure it stays wet enough to work with. In the center of the room is a low table, really just a flat stone slab with half-dried tablets stacked like sleepy pancakes. And off to the side, sitting cross-legged with a stylus tucked behind one ear, is the scribe himself. You catch him mid-grumble. Another shipment of barley and no token for the priest's share? Typical. You've just stumbled into one of the oldest accounting departments in the world. The scribe doesn't look particularly mystical. He's got a patchy beard, a stained tunic, and clay dust smudged across his nose. But make no mistake, he's powerful. In a world where barely anyone can read or write, this guy holds the receipts that run the economy. He picks up a stylus made of carved reed, dips it into the soft clay tablet, and begins to press slow, careful wedges in a script called cuneiform. It's not beautiful. It's not romantic. It's mostly administrative, but it's genius. Unlike earlier pictographs, cuneiform can record sounds and syllables, not just objects. That means you can write names, verbs, dates. You can say, on the 14th day of Nisanu, Marduk received 5 talents of copper from Nabu for delivery to the temple of Ishtar. A receipt, a statement of trust, a record of a transaction that could be referenced months or years later. And here's the delightful twist. These tablets weren't just receipts in our modern trash can within 3 days sense. They were permanent. Once the clay dried, especially if it got baked in a fire, which sometimes happened accidentally during invasions or kitchen mishaps, it became stone. Durable. Timeless. Like fossilized bureaucracy. Historians still argue whether the clay tablet economy was truly widespread or just limited to state and temple administrators. But the tablets we found suggest that everyday merchants, herders, and even some households made use of them, especially as Babylon grew richer and more complex. The scribe pauses and blows on his tablet gently, a puff of warm air over the wet clay. Then he stamps the lower corner with a cylinder seal, his signature. These seals were beautiful little objects, usually carved from precious stones like lapis lazuli or obsidian. When rolled across a soft clay surface, they left behind a miniature scene. Gods shaking hands, kings hunting lions, or rows of patterned cuneiform. It's like signing a document with a tiny mural. Some seals were family heirlooms, passed down through generations. Some were forged. Some were lost in the mud and are now sitting in museum drawers, their meanings long forgotten. But back then, that little roll of carved stone was your ID card, your credit score, your notarized approval. Without it, a receipt was just scribbles. You move closer to the pile of finished tablets and pick one up, carefully. It's still damp around the edges. The text reads like this: 3 goats delivered to the granary by Ishbaera. Witnessed by Namti. Approved by Lugalrim. That's it. No poetry, no drama. But oh, the stories it tells. Who were these men? Why goats? Was the delivery on time? Did Ishbaera get scolded for the one goat that chewed through a grain sack? The tablet doesn't say. It wasn't meant to entertain. It was meant to prove, to protect, to remember. And in a world where crops failed, kings changed, and temples burned, a small clay tablet with your name on it could mean the difference between being owed and being forgotten. You peek outside the scribe's office. Across the street, another scribe sits hunched under a canopy, copying an older tablet by lamplight. His hands are shaking slightly. Maybe he's been at it all day. Maybe he's transcribing tax records from 20 years ago for an audit no one really wants to do. Because yes, even in ancient Babylon, someone had to do the taxes. Back inside, the scribe scratches his ear with the stylus, frowns at a new request, and mutters, No seal again. What do they think this is you are? He chuckles to himself. You smile too, because somehow, even in the ancient world, bureaucratic humor still exists. The eternal language of middle management. Section 3. The sun slides a little lower in the sky as you follow the rhythmic clack of sandals down a dusty alley, your feet padding through the soft silt of a Babylonian side street. It smells like fried onions, warm goat skin, and distant river water. You trail a merchant, not particularly wealthy, judging by the patched hem of his robe, but clearly determined. He carries a satchel that bulges with something soft, something valuable. Wool. This isn't just any wool. It's temple-certified, drought-season, long-fiber sheep's wool, prized in the marketplace, especially for weaving ceremonial robes. And he's on his way to register it. Why? Because in ancient Babylon, transactions like these needed to be written down. And more than that, they needed to be witnessed. You duck into a busy courtyard behind him. It's not quite a market, not quite a legal court. It's a hybrid space, half bureaucracy, half bazaar. You spot 3 scribes seated beneath a canopy, their clay tablets laid out like the menus of an extremely dry and very serious restaurant. A few elders sit nearby with their seals ready. These are the witnesses, respected men, former scribes, priests, or local bigwigs. Their job is simple: verify what's being said. The wool merchant lays out his claim. 10 bundles of uncut temple wool. From my sheep, delivered to Enlil's agent 3 days ago. I want a receipt. The head scribe raises an eyebrow. You have a seal? He nods and pulls it from a cord around his neck. A small cylinder carved from cloudy green serpentine, etched with a barely visible motif. Possibly 2 goats and a star, but it's hard to tell in this light. The scribe writes, slowly, methodically, names, quantities, dates. Then he looks to the elders. They nod one after the other. Then each takes the clay and rolls his own seal across the bottom. It's a little like notarizing a document today, except far more artistic. Some seals leave behind entire mythical scenes. A lion battling an eagle, a king receiving a lightning bolt from the god Marduk, a line of fish riding donkeys. Yes, really, some artists were having fun. This moment isn't just bureaucracy. It's theater, social ritual, a formalization of trust. You lean against a wall and take it in. The clink of seals, the soft press of stylus on clay, the murmured acknowledgments. No shouting, no arguments. It's all strangely serene, as though everyone knows the rules and respects the gravity of turning spoken words into permanent marks. But here's something curious. Not all receipts were made equal. While some scribes carefully recorded the full details of a transaction, others just used symbols, wavy lines for water, triangles for barley, and so on. Historians still argue whether these simpler tablets were meant for short-term memory, kind of like sticky notes, or if they represented a deeper, more symbolic record-keeping system. Then there are the infamous bully. Imagine this. You place a bunch of clay tokens, each one representing a product like oil, grain, or textiles, inside a hollow clay ball. Then you seal it shut and stamp it. It's like putting a contract inside an envelope. Except the envelope is the contract. If someone wants to check what's inside, they have to smash it. One-time use, tamper-proof, satisfyingly dramatic. You reach into a crate nearby and feel the smooth weight of a bulla in your palm. You imagine being a courier, tasked with delivering it intact across muddy roads and bandit-infested hills. No pressure. Your merchant friend finishes his business. The tablet, now firming under the sun, is handed to him with a nod. He places it carefully into a slotted wooden box, a portable filing cabinet of sorts, and ties it shut. He walks away lighter, though not just because of the missing wool. He has proof now, something physical. If the temple ever claims it never got his delivery, he can whip out that clay tablet like a legal lightsaber and say, "Not today, Marduk." You follow him a little farther, past an old woman selling fish sauce in cracked amphory, past children playing with knucklebones in the dust. He doesn't look back, but his pace is calm. He's done the adult thing. He has a receipt. Behind you, another merchant arrives in the courtyard. This one has a goat, alive, bleeding, apparently destined for sacrifice. You decide to let that receipt process itself. Section 4. The sun dips below the rooftops now, and Babylon begins to exhale. The air cools ever so slightly, enough for a breeze to wander in from the Euphrates, carrying the scent of tamarisk trees and river mud. You drift with it, guided by instinct more than intention, toward a quieter district. Less trade, more temple. You hear the soft thump of sandals on baked clay rooftops above. Someone's herding goats up there for the night. Below, lanterns are being lit in alcoves carved into mud brick walls, their glow flickering like shy stars. And in one of these humble buildings, you find something unexpected. An ancient schoolroom. There's no sign, no bell, no pile of overdue homework. Just 5 boys sitting cross-legged on reed mats, squinting at the soft glow of an oil lamp. Before them, a teacher scribbles on a tablet with practiced grace. Left to right, wedge by wedge, until a symbol of barley emerges like a puzzle solved. Welcome to the Adaba, literally the tablet house. It's Babylon's version of a prep school, and it's one of the most exhausting, thankless, yet respected institutions in the ancient world. And tonight, you're an honorary student. The boys are maybe 12, but they look older, or maybe just more tired. You shuffle in behind them and take a spot near the door, not wanting to attract attention. The teacher, let's call him Nabu, rubs his forehead with a sigh and announces the next exercise. Copying a transaction record. Because make no mistake, this isn't poetry class. These kids are here to learn the grueling, granular, soul-flattening art of administrative accounting. Yes, Babylonian bureaucracy was so revered, they trained kids for years just to write grain receipts correctly. Nabu calls out, 7 shekels of silver, transferred from Pusar Marduk to Enlil Mubalit, in exchange for 2 full containers of sesame oil. Date: month of the goat, year of the royal eclipse. The students groan audibly but get to work. One starts his tablet too wet. Another forgets to dry his stylus tip. You realize how delicate this all is, the balance between clay and time and pressure. Too soft and the marks blur. Too dry and the tablet cracks. You peer over a student's shoulder. His cuneiform is decent, not elegant, but readable. He's chosen the traditional ledger format. Parties listed at the top, commodities below, value in the margin. Historians still argue whether students copied real transactions or if these were fictional case studies. But either way, the effect is the same. It's rote, repetitive, quietly meditative. And, let's be honest, also just boring enough to help you doze off. But comforting in its own way. Nabu walks around, correcting form. No, that's not a barley wedge. That's a duck wedge. Do you think we're paying for poultry here? A boy nervously corrects it. You smile. Bureaucracy jokes never really change. Then Nabu turns to the class with a rare treat. A real receipt. An old one. Worn smooth at the edges. The seal markings faded like old ink, but still legible. He tells the story. It's a record from 1800 BCE. A man sold 5 date palms to his cousin in exchange for a 2-year lease on a donkey and half a boat. Yes, half a boat. The man apparently got the prow. The cousin kept the stern. Scholars still aren't sure if that's metaphor or just sibling pettiness at its finest. You lean in, fascinated. This little lump of clay isn't just a receipt. It's a window into relationships, compromises, grudges. Babylon wasn't all ziggurats and gods, it was boat-dividing family drama. 2. Nabu continues, note the phrasing, as agreed upon under the witness of Shamash. Shamash, of course, was the god of justice. Invoking him in a receipt wasn't just religious posturing. It made the transaction sacred. It made cheating spiritually dangerous. You think about that. Every time someone got a receipt in Babylon, they were essentially saying, I swear to the sun god I'm telling the truth. That's a lot of pressure for a wool sale. The students finish their tablets. Nabu collects them in a basket, inspecting them with the weary eye of a teacher who's seen one too many crooked barley glyphs. Then he dismisses class, and they scatter into the dusk, their robes flapping behind them like little bureaucrats in training. You stay a moment longer, tracing one of the classroom tablets with your fingertip. It's still damp, still soft, but in a few hours it'll harden forever, a fossil of an education system that prepared children to serve not kings, but ledgers. You step out into the alley and inhale the night air. A man walks by with a donkey carrying water jugs. A woman calls softly to her daughter from a rooftop. Somewhere a dog barks at the moon, and you can't help but feel, just slightly, that you too are being recorded. Not in clay, perhaps, but in memory. One wedge at a time. Section 5. The moon glints over Babylon now, high and pale, brushing the rooftops with silver. The air carries the dry hush of a city settling in for the night. But somewhere, just a few alleys down, you hear voices, steady and low. Not festive, not angry, just focused. You follow the sound because of course you do. Your curiosity is now as relentless as a Babylonian scribe with a deadline. The voices lead you to what looks like a modest courtyard tucked between larger homes. There's a stone platform in the center, and clustered around it are 3 men, elders, by the looks of their long beards and careful, deliberate movements. One has a small clay tablet in his lap, another is holding a stylus like a talisman, and the third? Well, he's doing something that looks suspiciously like arguing about lentils. This is not a family dispute, however. It's a tribunal, a citizen-led legal assembly. And what you're watching is the Babylonian version of Judge Judy, but with more dust and fewer commercial breaks. The case at hand? A disagreement over a crop share. One farmer leased a plot of land to his cousin's son for 5 shekels and a promise of 1/3 the harvest. But according to the elder on the right, the tenant delivered only barley husks, claiming the field underperformed due to angry spirits. Classic move. The man with the tablet flips it over with exasperation. There, etched in neat cuneiform, is the lease agreement, an original copy, complete with the cylinder seal of both parties and a date marked year of the King's Festival of the New Bow. Very official. You kneel beside a clay pot and listen as they debate. The mood is not angry. It's the kind of dry procedural calm that only arises when men have known each other for 30 years and still disagree about everything. Here's what's fascinating. This is where receipts become powerful. In Babylon, documentation wasn't just for trade, it was for justice. No one needed lawyers when a fired clay tablet could speak louder than any witness. If your name was sealed on a receipt, it was binding. This society trusted the clay more than it trusted memory. And even now, scholars still argue whether these tribunals were open to commoners or restricted to property-holding men. Either way, the presence of tablets in these settings made the common man's word as weighty as a king's, provided, of course, the stylus strokes were accurate. The man defending the angry spirit story is sweating. One of the elders raises a brow and mutters something that sounds like, "I've seen better excuses from goats." The tribunal breaks into muffled chuckles. You're starting to really like Babylonian sarcasm. Eventually, the decision is made. The tenant must repay the missing grain, plus a penalty. 1 sheep, unblemished. The ruling is recorded on a fresh tablet, sealed by all 3 elders, and then baked near a communal hearth. Tomorrow, it will be stored in the temple's public archive. Yes, a temple archive, because where better to keep legal documents than under the watchful eye of the gods? You wander off again, passing storage jars marked with charcoal symbols, some for dates, others for olive oil, and you realize slowly that this whole city is organized like a filing cabinet. Babylon is one giant system of records, receipts, and ritualized trust. And somehow, despite the lack of computers or carbon copies, it works. You round a corner and nearly trip over a boy pushing a cart. On it are dozens of tablets, stacked like loaves of bread. He grunts, annoyed, and pushes past you. You glimpse one of the top tablets. It's a receipt for temple donations, recording 6 jars of honey, a small gold amulet, and 2 goats. You blink. That's a hefty offering. The temple isn't just a place of worship. It's the city's bank, courtroom, notary, and database rolled into one. If you lose your receipt, well, hope your memory holds up, because the clay does not lie. Behind the temple walls, a different kind of hush reigns. You tiptoe into a side chamber, quiet as a whisper, and find yourself face to face with rows of shelves. But not wooden shelves. These are tiered clay cubbies, each filled with baked tablets wrapped in cloth or stored in pots, each labeled with symbols that only a trained reader could decode. You're inside the library of Nippur's little cousin, a local archive where everything, from divorce settlements to sheep vaccinations, is kept. And some of these tablets have lasted 4,000 years. You run your hand over a smooth, rectangular one. It's warm from the day's heat, yet it's already centuries older than most living memory in this time. You pause, wondering if anyone will ever read what you've left behind. Will your receipts survive 4 millennia? Or just your streaming history? No judgment. Babylon would have archived both if given the chance. Your eyes start to blur, not from boredom, but from the sheer weight of time in this room. Each tablet a voice, a contract, a moment that mattered deeply, then drifted into routine. But routine here is sacred. Even the dullest tax record holds dignity. Even a scribbled list of fish deliveries can whisper across time. You close your eyes briefly. The smell of baked clay and sesame oil wraps around you like a lullaby. Somewhere far off, someone begins to sing a lullaby to a child. And you, honorary scribe of the night, lean back against the cool temple wall, your mind full of barley, seals, and unblemished sheep. Section 6. The scent of spices follows you as you slip back into the street, mingling with the low murmur of twilight conversation and the rhythmic creak of ox carts. Babylon isn't sleeping yet. In fact, the city's second shift is beginning. Merchants, bakers, and scribes winding down while tavern owners, night watchmen, and insomniac astrologers take over. You find yourself approaching a well-lit courtyard ringed with low tables and cushions. There's no sign, but the aroma of coriander and stewed lentils makes the purpose clear. You've stumbled into one of the city's famed scribal taverns, a place where business mixes with barley beer, and clay tablets are swapped with the same frequency as gossip. You duck under a reed awning and take a seat near the edge, careful not to knock over a nearby jar of ink. Next to you, 2 middle-aged men are deep in discussion. One has a satchel full of tablets. The other, a smug grin and freshly inked stylus. They're not drunk, not yet, but their banter flows with the ease of men who've copied thousands of numbers, names, and goats together. Tonight's topic is thrilling tablet forgery. Yes, even in a system as rigorous as Babylon's, some tried to cheat. One of the men whispers about a case from a few months back, a farmer who tried to pass off an old tablet with a recarved date, pretending he hadn't already paid his land tax. It almost worked, until a sharp-eyed temple scribe noticed the layering of the clay edges, like trying to pass off a photocopy with white out on it. Historians still argue. The man next to you murmurs, whether most scribes were part of an elite priesthood or just glorified accountants. He clinks his mug against your clay cup. Doesn't matter. We controlled reality either way. He's not wrong. In a world where nothing was considered real until it was written in cuneiform, scribes wielded enormous power. They controlled trade routes, military logistics, legal disputes, and even royal marriages. Want proof your daughter married into nobility? You'd need a receipt. Want to claim land rights near the river? Better have that land transfer tablet pressed, sealed, and baked. You sip your barley beer. It tastes like slightly fizzy oatmeal with a hint of nutmeg, an acquired taste. Around you, the tavern fills with the soft clack of styluses and laughter. A group of apprentices are doing a strange kind of contest. Each must write out a merchant's order backwards, from end to start, without making a single wedge stroke error. One fumbles a symbol for oxen, and his friends erupt into mock horror. Babylonian spelling bees were clearly intense. Near the corner, a man is sketching out a complex log of temple donations. Gold trinkets, yes, but also goose feathers, dried figs, and an entire jar of fish oil. You raise a brow. He shrugs. The gods accept all kinds, he says, even the weird stuff. And here's a detail modern historians love. Babylonian receipts weren't just functional, they were personal. Scribes often included flourishes, jokes, even small doodles in the margins. One surviving tablet includes a curse against any future reader who dares alter the numbers. Another includes a stylized drawing of a fish with enormous lips. Boredom, as it turns out, has a long history. Outside, a temple bell tolls. It's not a warning, just a reminder that the priest-scribes have started their evening record burning. Old, duplicate tablets no longer needed are ceremonially destroyed. Yes, Babylon invented data privacy, too. You make your way toward the door as a younger scribe passes you a small square tablet wrapped in cloth. "Just dropped off," he says. "Corn inventory for the southern granary. They'll want a duplicate." You hold the tablet for a moment. It's warm, still slightly soft at the edges. The marks are crisp, tiny, arrow-shaped impressions lined up in perfect columns. You can almost feel the rhythm of the scribe's hand, each stroke like a heartbeat. This one tablet tells the story of hundreds of lives. Farmers, transporters, tax collectors, priests. A whole miniature economy pressed into clay. And all of it, every crumb of bureaucracy, designed to keep Babylon spinning without a hiccup. You slip the tablet back into its cloth and hand it over. Back on the street, the sky is bruised with stars. The ziggurat glows in the distance like a stacked crown. And somewhere in its shadow, a sleepy apprentice is probably cataloging a crate of scrolls, yawning between entries. You feel something shift inside you. The idea that even 4,000 years ago, people believed in the permanence of small things. That someone's day, someone's trade, someone's goat was important enough to press into history. And you realize you've joined them, just another witness to this sleepy empire of receipts.